But now we're good, I guess. Sweet. We're good.
Solid?
Yeah.
All right.
We are totally live. Let's go.
All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. I'm your host, Shane Larson. Today we've got a new setup, new change of scenery. I'm at the studio for the Pro Edge podcast. The producer of that is Tim Meyer. You guys might remember Tim from my show a couple of months back. He was the jack of all trades, Mr. Skateboarder, Mr. College football player, Mr. Boxer, pretty much everything, which is why we loved having him on the show. Tim has now started his podcast, Pro Edge Podcast, which we spoke about on the show a couple months ago, but hadn't yet released any episodes. Tim, I want you to give us a little bit of an update on how that's going and how things are.
Things are going great. By the way, thanks for having me on your podcast.
Dude, yeah,
that was a blast, man. That was a great
sick.
first experience. You're a huge inspiration to me. I think I already mentioned that on the last one.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah, well, I think you're the one who got me into it. I was like, dude, Shane's doing this. He's killing it. I think Shane would be like a good guy to inspire me, so I did it. But everything's good. We just released our 6th episode. Now we're on Spotify, so just search Pro Edge Podcast on Spotify. But we just had a guy recently. He was a 30-year veteran. He was an undercover narcotics cop. Came on, talked about his time during the LA riots, 92. Talked about doing drug deals with some sketchy people. His views on drugs and society and the opiate epidemic and stuff like that. Other episodes include Jesse Brock, head coach for SBG Idaho,
right?
Who is also connected to Matt Jones here.
Yep.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
What's up?
He gave a very powerful interview about his point of view on Boise State wrestling and their the controversy surrounding Bob Kustra or Kustra, however you pronounce his name,
right?
And his whole shadiness behind it. So that was very powerful, very interesting. So everything's going good. We've got a great lineup, more people coming. So stay tuned. Check out our YouTube. Listen to the show. Watch the show. Give us 5 stars and give us some love.
There we go.
Yeah.
You got the YouTube channel.
Yeah, buddy.
iTunes. You just said Spotify. Like pretty much every
Stitcher, Podcast Addict.
Every outlet.
You're on it. Yeah.
Go check it out.
We're on it.
Like Tim just mentioned, we got Matt Jones in the house today.
Yo, how's it going?
It's good, man, and I'm excited to have you. This is a Pro Edge athlete, professional MMA fighter. But Matt, first off, you have a busy schedule. You called me last week. You told me what your schedule was like, so I truly appreciate you actually finding time to meet up with me.
Anytime.
Thank you. Can you kind of introduce who you are? Like, who is Matt Jones?
Matt Jones is one of a kind.
All right.
I'm a professional MMA fighter. Father, husband, pursuing the dream, getting into the UFC as soon as I can. I got a professional record right now, 7-2. I'm the Boise, Idaho 145 champion for Front Street Fights. And yeah, I'm in a great place. Just got back from Denver, Colorado, training with Dwayne Ludwig, making frequent trips out there. Things are looking promising, making things happen for my own career.
I like it, man. You mentioned you were out in Denver. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about is your schedule right now. You're training really hard, and your ultimate goal would essentially be to get to the UFC or to a major.
UFC, bigger league, make money. Like whatever opportunity comes my way, I'm going to take it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a journey right now. I'm doing all the right things that an athlete needs to be doing to be successful. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
I know every door I can walk through is going to be a great one.
No, for sure.
Pretty much in my hands to steer in which direction I want to go.
I like it.
Yeah.
Explain to us how your schedule is. So you live here in Boise, right?
Yes.
Like that's your home's here in the valley.
So I was born in Provo, Utah. I grew up here in Boise since...
I was born in Provo.
Were you? Nice. So I guess the story about me being born in Provo but living here is like my mom and dad were passing through Provo, and then she had me in Provo, and then on the way back to Boise. Yeah. So I'm a Boise native. I grew up here. Went to Whitney Elementary before they tore it down and rebuilt it. Went to South Junior High before they tore it down and rebuilt it. So I went to all the old school buildings here. I kind of lost my train of thought.
No, you're good, man. So you're training out in Denver, though. So your home's here in Boise.
Yes.
And what's your schedule like each week, or each month, I should say? I didn't know this about you until you told me a couple weeks ago. So how is this?
So, man, because of the way my living situation is with my wife, she has a really good job here in town, so we can't just up and move to Denver. but I need to be able to go out to Denver to train to further my career. I have great training here in Boise with my team at Combat Fitness SBG. I'm just looking for that next step to get into the bigger league, and that's about making connections, training with UFC fighters, knowing the right coaches, people that have walked that same path. You become what you hang around. So I'm just putting myself out there. So I start renting a room from Dwayne Ludwig out there. First 2 weeks of every month, I go out there and stay. And then the last 2 weeks of the month, I come back to home. I'm hanging out with my family. I'm training with my home team. But I'm constantly going back and forth between 2 weeks, trying to make things happen. So I'm going to make things happen.
Exactly. I like that.
Fixing my speech on that.
I like it. So it's basically a sacrifice for not only yourself though, but for your family, right? So you're away from your family, your wife and your children, essentially your daughter, like you mentioned. So it's going back and forth, but essentially the ultimate goal is to get to the bigger leagues, so whether it be Bellator, UFC, whatever it may be, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a grind. So this is what I kind of want to show the listeners. So my podcast is a sports podcast to give a panoramic view on sports, to educate them on all sports, and whether it be MMA, whether it be basketball, football, whatever the traditional sports are, there's sacrifice that goes into it, but you have to put in hard work. There's a lot of dedication that has to go into it, a lot of preparation, everything to essentially get to your ultimate goal. And it's cool to see someone like yourself who's from the Treasure Valley area and you're going 100% all in. Like we were just talking about this before the show started. You decided you wanted to go all in.
Yeah, man. Speaking of going all in, you guys remember that movie Creed?
Yes, sir.
That came out.
Oh, great movie.
Oh man, that movie was unexpectedly good. The fight scenes and some of that was kind of wonky, especially being a fighter. You're like, what? But the story was awesome. So like at the time when that movie came out, I was working for a company called AceCo. I was an apprentice machinist.
Okay.
So I was working in a machine shop, working on becoming a machinist. It was demanding a lot of hours for me during the day, and I was still training. It was right at the start of my pro career is when I got that job. So I worked that job for 2 years, for the first 2 years of my pro career, and I was working full-time, training, taking fights, I got to a record of like 4-1 doing that. So it's not bad, but it started to tax on me.
Right.
I was like, one of these has to go. I either got to give up fighting, go all in for machining, or I need to give up machining and just go all in for fighting. And that movie Creed that I just mentioned, man, I remember going to the theater and watching that, and it was like one of my first trips out to Denver. I took like a week-long trip just to go out there to see how it would be.
Right.
The very first time that movie came out. And I just remember that scene in that movie when he's like going to his boss and he's just like, I'm quitting, I'm going all in for fighting, obviously the scene played out a lot smoother than how I just explained it. But it was just, I knew I had to do that, but just seeing it on screen, even though it's fictional, just seeing someone do that and just being in that setting, sitting in front of the desk with your boss and just moving on, I was just like, I absolutely need to do this.
Right.
Shortly after that, I had the greatest boss in the world. His name's Ben Kelly. Still works at AceCo. To this day, I haven't had a boss as good as him. But I told him one day, I showed up for work, didn't give a 2 weeks notice. I was just like, hey man, I'm done. And he's just like, you're done? And I was like, yeah man, I'm quitting. I was like, I'm going all in for fighting. And I just started gathering up my stuff. And he's like, hey, it doesn't work like that. He's like, come sit at my desk. So I was sitting there, and he gets out some paperwork I fill out, and just like the last line before I sign it, he's sitting across the desk from me. He puts the paper in front of me. And he's just like, okay. He's like, before you sign that, he's like, are you sure you want to do this? He's like, are you sure? And I'm just like, I thought about it, and I was just like, yeah, I'm sure. And he's like, okay. He's like, as your boss, he's like, fuck you. he's like, we gave you every opportunity. He's like, we, you got the chance to be an apprentice machinist. You working with these older guys. You got to skip past school to do this. He's like, but as your friend, he's like, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for following your dream. So it's
That's
just,
so sick.
Yeah, man. He's the realest person you can imagine, man. And like, I just went and said what's up to him just a couple weeks ago. I haven't seen him for a few months, and like, it's good meeting people like that in your life. They can see both sides. Like, they can see like you got two choices before you that are both great choices. If I would have chose to be an apprentice machinist and just been the working man, totally could have done that. Would have been honorable. I would be providing a lot of money for my family, even though my time would not be there.
Right.
Pursuing the fight dream, like up front, you're broke. You're going all in. You're spending money to make money potentially. And as far as time around the family, I'm there a little more. but training does demand a lot more, especially like me taking trips out to Denver.
Right.
But the idea though is I'm fully committed, so the payout's gonna be great. You know, can you imagine like going for like a doctorate degree and then just going to school 2 times a week? It doesn't work that way. You got to go all in if you're gonna go that far into it, right?
Right.
You know, and it's just the way it is, man. Like, this isn't like my gospel or anything like that. It's like that's what you need to do to be successful in anything. You need to go all in. Don't just kind of I'm just floating around. Unless that's your style. You don't want to be the greatest at something.
Right.
Then it doesn't matter, right?
No, I like that. And how long has it been since you actually moved out of Denver, like, or started training in Denver?
Yeah, so last year I went out there a good 6 months out of the year for 2 weeks at a time here and there. It wasn't as frequent as I wanted it to be.
Okay.
I was staying with my buddy Josh Wick, who, by the way, is fighting for the title this weekend on Front Street, 155.
Okay.
And I'm cornering him for that. He drove down here with me. And just got to say this right now. I'm calling it. Josh is going to win second round knockout. So hopefully the next time we're on a show, we'll be talking about that.
Heck yeah, dude.
It's this
Mark
Friday.
it down.
Yeah.
Have him on your show, dude.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. He's going to be in town for 2 weeks. So right after the fight, let's get him on.
All right.
Yeah. I'm calling it, and it's recorded, right?
Yes.
All right.
Is it recorded, Tim?
Yes, I hope
right
so. Yeah, it's all recorded.
Yeah, man. So I was staying with Josh at the time, and it was a little harder to go there because like I'm staying in his basement. You know, the toilet doesn't work all the time. It's just I didn't have access to a kitchen the way I wanted to. You know, it was a free place to stay though, so it was good to like fill it out. So I'd go there, I'd pull up a cot and just kind of hang out down there. It was in like the ghetto, man. It was like hearing gunshots. I remember one time I drove there through a blizzard. And then there was cops everywhere surrounding his house, and I was just like, man, what happened? And I guess it was the house next door.
Oh no!
And so I go into Josh's house. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, there was a shooting. He's like, so just put your car out back and watch out for the cops and come inside.
Big deal.
Yeah. And I was just like, great, you know. I was like, I'll be sure not to tell this to my wife.
Right.
You know?
Those are the secrets you got to keep for a minute.
Yeah. But this last trip, man, I rented a room from Dwayne Ludwig, and it's perfect, man. It has everything I need. You know, I got my own room, my own space. I got access to a kitchen. It's right down the street from a gym. You know, the freaking toilet works.
Yes.
It's great, man.
The essentials.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you say it's worth it that, you know, now that you look back on it, you went through a few little rough patches with the first time, like having to rent out the room over there with your buddy. But as far as like what you've learned since you started training out in Denver, when you went all in, has it been worth it so far?
Absolutely, man. Like ever since I started going out to Denver, I'm 3-0. So like I said, my record right now is 7-2. Ever since I started training out there, I'm 3-0 for my last 3 fights. So it's great, man. And like I had that knockout with the spin elbow 2 fights ago. You know, I contribute a lot of that to the striking that I've been doing out there. This last guy I fought, I was able to keep the fight standing pretty much all 5 rounds. And anytime it did hit the ground, you know, contributing this to Combat Fitness SBG with their jiu-jitsu and wrestling, like I was able to just immediately get back up. This last guy I fought, he was like 3rd degree black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Wasn't he the Brazilian?
Yeah, he's Brazilian.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that guy hit hard, man. Like my face to this day is still kind of numb, bro. Every time I floss my front teeth, I'm like, it's still kind of numb. It's not a good thing.
Dang.
But you know, it's whatever, you know. Things happen in life.
It's part of the job.
You're right.
Yeah.
I could have gotten in a car accident and smashed my face in the same way. So, you know,
True.
I remember when my grandma, she was like, you sure you want to go all in for fighting? And I was like, absolutely. And she's just like, well, what if you get hurt? You know, and I was just like, you can get hurt doing anything. Like, my mom was changing a light bulb, standing on a ladder. It shocked her. Her leg got caught in the ladder. She fell down, broke her knee and her leg in 2 places. Just changing a light bulb. Yeah, and she's never fought in her life. And I'm not saying I'm invincible. I haven't ever had a major injury or any broken bones or anything like that. Yeah, knock on wood. But, you know, I feel like it's because I'm truly blessed. You know, I live an honorable life. God's watching out for me. You know, I like to feel that way when I'm walking around in the world.
Yeah.
You know, whether you believe or not, I'd rather feel that way than thinking he's not there.
No, I got you.
So, get hurt doing anything. And like my same grandma who told me that, she was driving kids on a school bus, and I guess she was walking up the steps to get into her driver's seat, and a kid like runs up behind her, falls on her leg, and she breaks her knee. So it's like you were doing the safest thing you could imagine. Well, I guess not safest because you're driving a bus full of kids. Crazy things can happen. But, you know, you broke your leg or you broke your knee driving kids on a school bus. My mom broke her leg, you know, 2 places, changing a light bulb. You know, I've had 10 amateur fights, 9 pro fights, and I haven't had any serious injuries. So it's like, it just looks scary from the outside perspective, you know? And I'm not saying you can't get hurt. People get hurt in fighting, man.
For sure.
Some people die fighting, right? Literally. It's always a risk, man. It's a risk every time you walk out your door. If you're gonna let the fact that something is risky or this might happen stop you from doing it, it's like you might as well not do anything in life, right?
Right.
You know, like, oh, I don't know why you'd want to go to college. Like, you have to drive to school. You might get in a car accident. Oh, you're right. I should just stay home.
I wish I would have used that excuse.
You know,
for my years in college.
To me, that's how ridiculous it sounds when people say that about fighting.
No, for sure.
It's just as ridiculous, you know. And yeah, man, it's just live, you know. Like Dwayne was just telling me, he's just like, I was asking him about a technique, and I was just like, hey man, someone told me, you know, when you strike the liver here, you don't want to shake to the left because you could potentially get countered there. And he's just like, why you look at it like that? He's like, why don't you look at it as like, I hit that guy so hard in the liver, and it's just like that's all that happened,
right?
You know? That's the follow-up, you know. And I was just like, he's like, it's all about making your own openings, making your own possibilities, you know, because like basically bottom line, there's a counter to everything,
right?
You know, and it's just being smart on your movement. So it was kind of a gray area, but that just kind of like, he turned it into like a moral, like,
I like it,
make it happen, you know.
Change the mindset a little bit.
Yeah, change your mindset, you know. Stop saying try. Say I'm going to do this, you know.
Yeah.
Like I was just reading in this book, this sports psychology book, is like, do first, then say it. Don't say it, then do it. Just go do it. Then you can talk all about it.
I like it.
You know, there's no reason to tell people, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Go do it. And afterwards, we'll talk about it, you know. So I thought that was good, you know.
I like it.
Yeah. I
like it. And Matt, what's your nickname, your fighting nickname?
So I was going by the Stripling Warrior, and so I'm part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the Stripling Warrior is, well, there's 2,000 of them in the Book of Mormon, and I took that story to heart when I first read it. A lot of it was, you know, the origins of that story, like they were raised by their mother. I was raised by a single mother. You know, their mother was teaching them the gospel of Christ at the time. My mom was teaching me the gospel of Christ at the time. And I always felt deep down that martial arts and like God were one with me. And a lot of that goes to my first martial arts instructor. His name was Keith Good. He was also a member of the same church.
Okay.
He at the time, you know, we couldn't afford traditional karate lessons. But we found out this guy was teaching, you know, Kenpo karate, the American Kenpo system, Ed Parker system.
Yeah, and I actually trained in Kenpo for a long time when I was younger. Anyways, go ahead.
Nice.
Go for it.
So yeah, he was teaching out of the back of his house, and I had some good friends growing up, the Perez's, and he was already teaching them. And I was so close with the Perez family, I was basically another kid of theirs. And they told me about him, and he started teaching me, and like I got so absorbed into martial arts at that moment in my life that I just knew that this is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Even though it wasn't MMA at the time, it was a way for me to get my foot in the door. Like you have to experience something for the first time in some way.
Yeah.
But as he would teach me martial arts, he would always teach me morals with the church. So, you know, like principles on how to live the gospel correctly, but he would mix it with martial arts. And, you know, and at this time in my life, I'm really young, and it's kind of like I'm being taught both at the same time, so it's hard to separate those two in my mind. And honestly, I feel like if I keep them together, I'm better in both worlds. So it's like, why mess up a bad thing? You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So that's the story behind the nickname on that.
I like it.
So, and well, last part of the story, my instructor, he actually passed away February 9th, 2014, and I just got a notification about that on Facebook, saying, you have memories to look back on. I was like, what could possibly have happened this day? And I was like, oh yeah, my martial arts instructor passed away. I was like, thanks, Facebook.
Right.
But he always had the dream of opening his own school. Like I said, he was teaching out of the back of his house, and he wanted to open his own school and call it the Stripling Warriors Academy of Martial Arts. And I was always like, man, that's awesome. I love it, you know. And
cool.
you know, he passed away, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna just carry that name with me in my fight career, the Stripling Warrior. You know?
I like it.
Everyone always has, like, you know, like catchy fight names, which is dope, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But pick something that stands out. Plus, that one has a lot of meaning to me, and then it creates conversations like this.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what is that name? Like, tell me more, and then I could tell you a little story about it. So
I think it's sick, and like I happen to be a member of the same church, right? So
nice.
When I heard that, I was like, well, I know a lot of my listeners happen to be as well because they're my friends and such. But I'm like, we got a couple people here in Idaho probably understand that reference, but it's really cool to hear the background of it too. It's not. There's a lot deeper meaning to it, like a bigger meaning to it. So
yeah, man, it's my life.
It's legit.
And I've chose to use my life fighting. So the deeper meaning is this is my life, and this is the mark I'm leaving.
And that is quite literally like my favorite story in any scripture is the Stripling Warrior. Yeah. So I think it's so sick. And like that's one of the things that actually caught my attention when I started following you. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. It's when I first started following you here locally. I saw you at one of your fights. It was the one before your back elbow, whatever, the spinning back elbow, whatever. Spinning elbow, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it was before that one. And I was like, Stripling Warrior. It's like, dude, all right, I know this guy. So I just kind of started rooting for you myself. I thought it was rad. So when you turned pro, so you mentioned you had, so 10 amateurs, 9 professional fights.
Yes.
So 19 total fights. Okay. How long have you been fighting for then?
So I'm 26.
Okay.
I started my first amateur fight when I was 19.
Okay.
And just been fighting since then.
Okay.
So whatever the math is on that.
So 19 fights in 7 years?
I guess.
Okay. Crazy, man. Okay. So let's talk about
fights.
It
seems like
is a
ton.
lot of fights, but it doesn't even feel like I have had that many. It's so crazy. I remember when I first started, when people would tell me like, yeah, I've had 12 fights, or yeah, I've had 5 fights, or I've had 10 fights. I'm like, man, that's insane. How can you have so many fights? I'm at 19 right now, and it doesn't even feel like it. So
yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, a fight is literally a moment,
Yeah.
The longest a fight can last is 5 rounds, 5-minute rounds, and I've done that twice. So it's like you're spending more time training than you are fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nuts, though. Okay, so this is what one of my buddies was asking me, and I kind of wanted to educate the listeners on this as well.
Yeah.
The difference between amateurs and professionals. So, from my boxing experience, it's actually pretty similar from what I understand to the MMA realm. But when you go, like, what's the difference between amateur fighting and professional fighting in MMA? Minus, take away the, obviously there's pay that's involved with professional fighting. But what's like another difference that comes with amateurs and professional fighting?
Man, I'd say basically the biggest difference is amateur is a way for you to get your feet wet and make mistakes, and then once you get in your groove, you can start fresh with a clean 0-0 record as a pro. Okay. So it's kind of like a restricted realm of MMA. So instead of 5-minute rounds, they have 3-minute rounds. You're allowed to knee and elbow to the face in professional.
Okay.
You're not allowed to knee and elbow to the face in amateur. So a little bit lower risk. I mean, a kick to the head's still a kick to the head.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird there. I know some leagues that make you wear shin pads and headgear. It just depends on the state and the commission and all that. But from an athletic standpoint, like from the from the perspective of an athlete, I would say amateur is just used as practice.
Okay.
An amateur career is practice. Like if I told you my AMI record, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. Do I need to say I was 5-5 as an amateur? That's not a good record. Not a good record at all. There was that one point in my amateur career that I was on a 3-fight losing streak.
Okay.
I remember this. I remember I lost a fight, and I was like, oh, man, this doesn't feel good.
Right.
Went and fought again, lost, and I was like, man, this doesn't feel good at all. I just lost 2 in a row. Like, should I be doing this? All those questions go through your head. You start doubting yourself. Whatever. So I pulled myself out of that rut. I went and took another fight, and I lost again. And I was just like, I can't believe this. I was like, I just put more into it, and I still lost. So, I made some adjustments in my training. I went to the correct gym. That's actually when I first went to Combat Fitness, started training there. And I did that. And I remember I took, my 4th amateur fight, I'm on not my 4th fight, but 4th into the losing streak.
Right, into the losing streak.
Okay, I trained with Combat for like a good 6 months, took another amateur fight. And in that fight, man, that was like the most intense fight of my amateur career. So I go out there, I'm fighting this guy. His name's like Bryce Bauer. He's more muscular than me. He's more of a grappler than me. I was still getting used to grappling at the time. Like I wasn't good at wrestling. I never wrestled growing up. Wasn't good at jiu-jitsu. I just knew I could strike, and I knew I wanted to do MMA, right? So I went to Combat, started learning some jiu-jitsu, started learning a little bit of wrestling, enough to allow my striking to fly a little more. But I go into that fight, man, I get beat up for 2 rounds straight. You know, I'm getting picked up and slammed. You know, I'm trying to set up a triangle. You know, he picks me up, slams me again. I just remember all I see is when he picks me up, I see the lights of the stadium. And then it felt like I was going on a roller coaster ride. I was just like, oh, here it goes. My stomach like drops, and then I hit the mat. And, you know, I was getting beat up for 2 rounds. And I just remember, you know, in between the second and third round, before I went out for the third round, you know, Jesse and Tomets, you know, just telling me all the things I need to do. And I just remember Tomets was just like, if you don't finish this fight, you're going to lose.
Right.
You know, and Jesse was saying the same thing. And I was just like, man, you know, and I just remember I was standing in the corner. I was just like, am I going to allow a 4th loss? Am I going to allow this to happen? Dog's pulling the cord.
Which cord?
My headphones. Sorry, everybody.
We're recording live. We got a dog underneath the table. This is great. Love
it's
it.
our mascot here.
Yeah, dude.
So third round, you know, I was just like, am I gonna allow a 4th loss? You know, and I just remember, have you guys ever watched Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit.
I've watched it. I haven't really paid attention to it.
Dude,
but
I
yeah,
felt like
I've
I turned
watched it.
Super Saiyan in the third round, bro. Like all the fear of fighting left me in the third round, and like all the like.
That was the moment.
Yeah, dude, all the worries of like, man,
dude.
if I get hurt, what if this happens?
Right.
Like I literally just like turned into a just straight fighter. I went out in the third round, dude, and I just immediately threw a spinning back kick, connects. You know, he kind of backs off. You know, Jesse and Tomets are yelling at me to like throw a jab, throw a straight jab, and I throw another spinning back kick, connects, and you know that's number 2. You know, I'm moving around, I throw another spinning back kick, that's 3rd strike. You know, hits him. I throw another one, 4th, hits him, and then I throw a 5th one, hits him, and it knocks him down. And like I just remember it knocks him down, and I jump on his back. And like I ended up in like inverted triangle. At the time, I didn't even know the term. I just knew I had him, you know. And I was right in my corner's face, and you know, it was like you hear the clap for like the last 10 seconds of the round. So basically, I got to finish this guy to win. It's the last 10 seconds. And Tomets is like, you have an Americana right there. He's like, go for it. And I was just like, I stop everything. I look at him. I was like, I don't know what that is. You have to explain it to me. And he's just like, take your left hand, grab his wrist. Take your right hand, grab his elbow, pull it up, now twist his arm. And I just like, right then, boom, and like his arm pops. And like he taps right then and there. It was like the last few seconds of the third round, and I win via submission. It was like, man, inverted triangle, Americana was the submission. And I just remember I was just like, holy crap, you know. And like someone is like, that's how you listen to your coaches. And I was just like, it's freaking awesome, you know. And so it's like I was literally got beat up for 2 rounds and then just turned Super Saiyan, finished that fight. You know, I took another fight with them. So after that 3-fight losing streak, I went on a 3-fight winning streak.
Okay.
You know, because I made the adjustments to my training camp, you know, and it allowed my skills to grow. But, you know, second fight I did with them, I finished the guy in like a minute 20 seconds, ground and pound. And then the third fight, this was the toughest fight. So I'd say the fight where I finished in the last few seconds, that was like the toughest to that moment,
right?
Because of where I was at mentally. You know, like I lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
And then my last amateur fight was the toughest challenge when I was on a high. Like I felt really good about myself. But then this kid also felt really good about himself, and he brought a fight. He was there to fight.
Right.
So that third fight, I remember fighting him, and it was just a dog fight, man. We were both connecting strikes on each other. I was getting my takedowns. I was controlling him on the ground. He was making me work extremely hard to do so. And I just remember it was like third round, I get double hooks in, I flatten him out on his belly, and I just start throwing strikes to his jaw, and then the ref calls it. And then that was third fight with them, so I'm on a 3-fight winning streak now. My record's 5-5. And I remember Tomets talks to me in the locker room after that, and he's like, it's time to go pro. He's like, pro is just like the amateurs, it's just longer rounds. He's like, you already spar for 5 minutes, you know, because I had a lot of concerns. Like at that time, pro fighters looked to me the way the UFC looks to me right now.
Right,
I gotcha. What I mean? So just pro fighters on my level seemed like such a far step for me. When all reality, it wasn't. I was literally just one step away from it. Yeah. Literally, I just had to put 1 foot forward, and I would have been right there in that same realm. And I feel the same way about the UFC right now.
Okay.
But and then that's when I went pro. You know, lost my first pro fight, and then I won like 4 in a row. I was 4-1. And then I lost my 6th pro fight, and then I'm on a 3-fight win streak.
All right.
7-2 right now. So I've only lost 2. Yeah.
So your experience in the amateurs really was like a good learning experience. You had a couple losses. You had the roller coaster essentially, is
Absolutely.
like ups and downs,
Yeah.
and then you kind of had a good transition into the pros. Man, that's crazy. Now, explain to us how it works. You want to get to the UFC or a big league in mixed martial arts. Is there anything they look at as far as like to get you on a contract for the UFC? How does it work to actually get to one of those to sign a contract?
You got to be pretty.
Gotta be pretty, okay.
Got to be pretty with
You're
the way
pretty, dude.
Yeah,
You're pretty.
Yeah, Thanks,
You really
man.
are. You're pretty, dude.
I appreciate that. So you got to look good, and you got to look good fighting. You gotta draw a crowd, man. Basically, they only want you if people want to watch you fight.
Right.
So all the fans out there, anyone listening to this, if you know a fighter, you should always go support them. You know, because every fan counts. You know, that's why I said I want to be a hometown champion, so I can take my hometown with me when I go to the bigger leagues. I need a following. You know, I absolutely understand this. Skill has everything to do with it, right? So if you're not winning fights, if you're not an exciting fighter, you know, they're not gonna want you. But then, you know, if you're just gonna like win fights by laying on people and holding them down, lay and pray is what we call it, right? You know, you get those big strong wrestlers that come out and try MMA and they just try to pin the guy and just hold
Try to
him.
muscle their way through.
No one wants to see that.
No.
Nobody. If people wanted to see that, they would go to a wrestling match. You know, wrestling's great. I love the sport, but it has its place in MMA. When you do it correctly,
Right?
You know, like someone like Khabib.
I totally get you.
Someone like Khabib, you know, when he takes you to the ground, it's active and it's exciting the whole time. You don't have to understand jiu-jitsu and wrestling to know that Khabib, when he's beating someone on the ground, literally beating them up on the ground, that it's exciting to watch. But then you get the guys that are, you know, they get tired, they just hold them there. It's, you know, that's how I lost my first pro fight. You know, the guy, like I was outmaneuvering him, I was outstriking him, and he just gets a hold of me. He's a better wrestler than me at the time, and he's holding me down. And it's just a boring fight, and it's a boring way to win. And I just remember walking away from that fight being like, man, I don't feel like I lost.
Yeah,
I just feel like the guy just held me in place, you know?
It's like the guy on Street Fighter who does the kick button the whole time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no one wants to see that.
Dude.
You know?
Gosh,
yeah, no
dang.
one wants to see that, man.
You still win, but dude, it's like, quit doing that.
Yeah, they hold down and just do the little kick.
Hit
yeah,
the same button the whole time, dude. You can't defend it every time.
Oh, man.
Sorry, flashback.
No,
I like it.
It's
Memory
true.
lane over here.
But yeah, man, I walked away from that fight just being like, I can't believe I lost this way. So, you know, obviously I've been working on my wrestling. You know, I started training with the Suplex system with Ivan Ivanov, the guy who invented the Bulgarian bag.
Okay.
Suplex Fit Ball, which is amazing fitness equipment, by the way. Started training out there, you know, training with Team Elevation, doing wrestling at Combat, more jiu-jitsu at Combat. You know, it's just it took time, man. It takes time to learn anything. I'm getting far better at it.
Yeah.
I feel super confident right now. You know,
Good.
I feel really confident in my striking, takedown defense to keep my striking going. Yeah, man, it's just you can take your experiences and learn from them, or, you know, you can let your experiences defeat you. And I chose, you know, to learn from them.
Yeah, I like it, man.
I don't want to interject here, but karate, are you I love your style. I love watching your style.
Thanks, man.
So, like, karate-wise, are you still, like, training hard in karate?
Yeah, so I'm not like putting on the gi and wearing a belt and doing traditional karate classes like I was when I first started.
Right.
Mainly just because Ricky Steele's in the Ultimate Fighter right now, and he's my karate instructor.
Yeah.
He's pretty much the only person I will put on a gi with and actually do karate with, unless I meet someone else that's as cool as Ricky, you know. But as far as striking goes, I'm just doing the Bang Muay Thai system.
Nice.
So they still like belt you. They belt you with T-shirts over there. So it's like white, yellow, orange, blue, purple, brown, black.
Man.
Gotcha.
And, yeah, so it's very traditional. Like, we bow in, you know. He has techniques written down. He has a name for everything, you know. We drill. But it's all dictated towards fighting in the cage.
Yeah.
You know, karate has its place in the cage, you know, just like wrestling has its place, but you have to know how to use it effectively.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In an MMA setting. Same thing with karate. So, you know, that's when I did do my karate training. I'm taking pieces of it. I'm not trying to master every single kata. I'm not trying to,
just what's applicable.
Yeah, just what's applicable to me that I can use that very weekend for sparring or something, So like the side kick, spinning back kick, spinning hook kick, I like that wider stance, the movement that they do in karate, that quick in and out. I absolutely love it.
Just have it in your toolbox.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Being able to throw the karate roundhouse kick, it's a lot faster than the Muay Thai kick, so I use that as your jab.
Is karate something a lot of like mixed martial artists apply in their
I've seen it
like fights? So is it something to be expected? Like, is it something that's not that crazy, or do most people not expect it? Or
like honestly, anyone who's serious about martial arts trains some form of like karate style kicks. Like I said, like the spinning back kick.
Right.
The side kick to the leg. The instep to the leg, like the John Jones kicks is what everyone calls them because everyone's ignorant. They don't know that those kicks been around for hundreds of years, right? But yeah, like you can add that. So like, let's just say you get a phenomenal boxer, really good with his hands, really good with his head movement, really good with his footwork, and you just teach him a simple side kick to the thigh, and that's the only thing you show him. But he has that mastered. So now he can control you and your movement when at will he can throw a side kick to your thigh and like buckle you, interrupt your movement, and he's got dangerous hands. Yeah. So it's all about just picking a weapon that you like, that you feel like you can use, and putting it into the cage. You don't have to master the whole style that you're learning from.
Yeah.
Pick one move, master it. Pick one move and master it, and then pick another one, and start to build yourself. So
flashing back to your Kempo days as you're speaking about that, so I'm glad you asked that question, Tim, because now it's got me thinking about some other stuff. Did you have a favorite move in Kempo karate? Because this is one of the very first things I ever learned was called alternating maces, and it was like one of the very first things. Very first things.
Very familiar.
Do you remember any of the moves from back in the day?
I know the star block system.
The star block system. Can you explain that, like why you like it or why you liked it?
I just remember it.
You just remember it. Okay.
So for anyone listening, for every belt rank in Kenpo karate, there's a set of techniques you have to learn. I think the first one is there's like 10 techniques and then one kata you have to learn. And then you also have to do the star block system, which is just you take a basic horse stance and it allows you to go through all the blocks in a structured manner so you can get used to moving your body in that way. So we're talking super, super beginner. Like either you're a fat couch potato and you just rolled off the couch wanting to learn, or you're a young kid you want to learn, or you're an older gentleman and you never thought about it and I want to go try this. It's like that level of intensity. It's super simple. So you got the high block that goes first, then you do like inward block, outward block, downward block, you rechamber, and then you do like a push down. Obviously I'd have to show you.
Yeah, no, I got
but
you.
I remember it, and I remember you do it with your right arm, you do it with your left arm, then you do it with both arms. And what's crazy is like it actually makes your arms feel really good. So if you were like trying to loosen up your arms, man, I might just do this to warm up, just to get people to be like, what's he doing? Warming up with that star block system. Man.
That's so funny that you're breaking that up. It's rad.
You see Conor McGregor do all that weird stuff.
Yeah, he does this weird
stuff.
Yeah, and you know where he got that, man? Rickson Gracie did that long before he did. Yeah, man, there's a video of him doing it on the beach wearing sunglasses, man. Like that, like it's every martial art, like what he did is he saw something and he added it to his regimen, even if it was a part of a warm-up regimen, and everyone's making fun of him, laughing at. Dude, I thought it was cool. Yeah, I was like, I'm jealous that I didn't think of that first. Yeah. But it's like he didn't like just come up with that out of thin air. You're an entertainer. Yeah. Being in the fight business, that went around the internet like wildfire.
It was there fast.
Everyone's seen that. So it's like. It was genius, man. And get people talking, even if they're talking crap. They're talking about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's making you money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man.
Like a lot of money for him.
Lots of money.
Crap.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so let's get to know you a little bit better, Matt. On outside of fighting, you mentioned you liked gaming.
Heck yeah.
Let's talk about gaming for a second. What's some of your favorite games to play?
So RPGs, man. My gaming career started with the Nintendo 64. Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, and Super Smash Bros. And of course, all that lineup. So like, I got to play Star Fox growing up. I got to play Kirby, growing up, and then I eventually graduated to the GameCube. All the evolutions of all those games I just mentioned, I started to play, and then I went from the GameCube to Xbox, and then that's why I'm on the Xbox side when it comes to PlayStation.
Okay.
Just because
Throw your gamer tag out there, dude, so people can follow you.
My gamer tag's Yo Ninja Jones.
Yo Ninja Jones.
Yeah. So if you want to follow me, it's pretty good. It's Yo Ninja Jones on all
You got
platforms.
a Twitch account?
Not yet. Yeah, I don't live stream or anything. But yeah, man, I like gaming in my downtime, and I like playing games that allow me to escape reality.
Okay.
So, and when I say escape, I mean I'm living in a whole nother world. Like, I'm not playing
You dictate your actions.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of write my own story. So, like, I'm not playing, like, shooters and being competitive online. I have too much of that in the real world. I'm already being competitive in everyday training and stuff. It's like, I want to break from that. So, like a game like Dark Souls, okay? So, in a game like Dark Souls, you create your character, and then you just set off on this huge journey. And in this game, the mechanics are very realistic to life in a way.
Yeah.
It's a super fantasy game. The game, you're not gonna fight dragons in real life, right? But what is realistic about the game is like the stamina management. Like if you go into a fight and you just like unload in the first minute and give it everything you have, and then you gas out, like that's not smart, right?
Right.
You hit and then you move. You do 3-piece combo and then you move. Well, in Dark Souls, you do very similar things. You got to know when to block, when to hit, when to move. So like I get a lot of people that say, "Oh, like, man, the Dark Souls games are so hard." They're known as being like the hardest games around, right? They're hard because people don't know how to play them.
Yeah.
They go in there and they just mash the buttons, and then they deplete their stamina, and then they're like, oh, and then they die, right?
Right.
And I don't know what happened. Like
Strategy behind it,
This
dude.
game's hard and I can't do it. So it's like live timing strategy is why I like it. And what's cool about games like that is even though I'm not like training and this is in my downtime, it keeps my brain active on similar things that I need to be doing for my fight career. So anyone that says like, oh, video games are a waste of time, video games create violence, all that is nonsense, man. Like every game has a purpose.
You know how I defend that. I managed the video game trading post on Fairview.
Oh, that's right, dude.
Back in the day. Shout out to VGTP. They died like a decade ago, but I still love the owners. But I think that role-playing games specifically create a way for us to think differently and to be able to understand how to make decisions. Especially at a young age. Final Fantasy VII was a huge impact in my gaming life.
Yeah, great game.
I gamed a lot. I'm a huge RPG guy. So, I mean, sitting behind you is like a huge collection for like Sega CD and 30. I've got like everything, dude. You name it, man. I got games. But no, I think like, some people will say video games are a waste of time. But in reality, they force you to think in angles.
Yeah.
You have to think differently to solve different puzzles for different types of games. I mean, even Resident Evil, yes, you're like using a shotgun and you're killing things, zombies and whatnot. But you're solving puzzles and you have to remember things. And I don't know. I'm like not a neurologist, but when you think about it, thinking differently forces you to solve the same problem different ways. And that creates different neural pathways for development, for understanding and learning. That's how I see it.
Whoa.
Absolutely, man.
But I'm not a doctor. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sounds fine to
I
me.
don't sound
It sounds
stupid.
right.
Somebody who's smart is going to be like on the board. They're going to be like, the guy's a fucking idiot.
Everything you just said is
I don't know.
But
that's how I back it up. And I don't think I'm an idiot.
No.
And I've gamed my entire life. And I contribute a lot of the ways that I think of things and the way that I perceive things. I contribute a lot of it to the games that I played as a kid that were probably more geared towards adults.
Right.
But it made me grow up pretty quick as far as like decision-making skills and like even like morals and ethics. Like a lot of video games will teach you that stuff. Obviously, when you're playing Doom, it's not going to teach you like a lot about morals and ethics, but like RPGs in general, a lot of them will teach you like what's right and what's wrong, and they allow you to make that decision to go back and forth. You create your own story, and like you were saying, you escape from reality for a little bit. Like everybody needs to decompress. Right. Some people get hammered. Some people do drugs. Some people game. They all probably triggered the exact same shit in your brain. It's an all-in addiction in a certain way, but
I like it, man.
But
I'd rather walk away from a TV screen and be like, oh, okay, back to
Totally.
training than walk into training with a hangover or
Yes.
something. But
Exactly.
dude, like, it's funny you say that about all those connections in the brain, because when I was in 3rd grade playing an Ocarina of Time, that's all I could think about that whole year. So it's like, yeah, I'm still learning. I'm learning social studies, doing math, all that stuff. But man, like, I would only go to school so I could go back to playing Ocarina of Time. And I remember sneaking that book, the Ocarina of Time book, into class, putting it inside my textbook, acting like I was reading my textbook to read that. But dude,
Smooth.
so that game has like a lot of puzzles in it and a lot of adventure, a lot of like story. You know, you're the hero of the story. But you know, for a 3rd grader, I think I was like 8 or 9. Like, dude, it was perfect for me to be in, man.
you live an adventure, man.
Dude, yeah, man. And like to this day,
One of the best games ever.
Yeah, that set the standard for how I play games to
For
this day
sure.
was Ocarina of Time.
Totally.
And I still
beat
own
it
that.
like on the DS.
Yeah, I got the DS
Yeah.
version too.
Beat it on the
That's
64.
great.
Beat it on the GameCube reversion.
Hey, have you beat Master Quest?
No, but I've got it.
Oh, dude,
I heard it's pretty dope.
Dude, Master Quest. Go play it. I beat it in 14 hours.
I've got so many games behind you right now. One of these days, let's geek out.
I'm
I got
down.
my Dreamcast that you
This is
talked
great.
about
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
got
love this.
Dreamcast. Gamecast? No. You mean Dreamcast? No. Gamecast, bro.
It's a GameCube and a
GameCube.
Dreamcast. You're like, man, I got a Gamecast. I can't afford it. I love that.
I
Malibu's
love
Most
it.
Wanted? Is that
That's so
Malibu's Most Wanted?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
That was a great movie.
Traffic.
Looking for my chapstick.
chapstick. That movie's classic, man.
Class.
But yeah, man, back to like, you know, the gaming. I totally do it in the downtime, you know.
I like
As
it.
far as consoles right now, I got the PS4 Pro, got the Xbox One X, and I got the Nintendo Switch. Got a 3DS, and I got an SNES Mini. So I got a pretty good collection.
Yeah, you do.
know?
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks to my wife, honestly, on those.
Yeah.
But you know, it's good, man. Like the next game I want to get into is Shadow of the Colossus. The remake, it just came out for PS4.
And
So the remake just came out a couple weeks ago, and it's not just a remake, like a remastered graphics. Like they built it from the ground up. Have you guys played the game?
I have not.
I have Shadow of Colossus from a PS3.
Nice.
Yeah,
So they
great game.
remade it,
Loved
man.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
So and I've never played it, so I really want to get into that.
Yeah, I've
so
got
that's the next game I'm looking to play. Right now I'm doing Breath of the Wild on the Nintendo Switch. I always dab into Dark Souls, and you know. I just feel like video games are a perfect way to escape. So I do that, and then I'm reading books as well.
Okay.
So I feel like anything that I can do to rest the body and then stimulate the mind,
Ooh.
you know, outside of practice. So
I like it.
you know, video games, they require timing, hand-eye coordination. You know, I'm thinking outside the box, just making neural connections. I feel it every time I play. But then, you know, staring at a TV screen hurts the eyes, you know. So it's good for the brain to make different connections by reading books too. So,
What are you reading right now?
Chasm City. It's a sci-fi book.
What's it about?
So I'm on chapter 2.
It's called Chasm City.
Chasm City.
CHAZM.
CHASIM. Chasm
Nice.
City. So Earth has left. People have left Earth. They've colonized a different one of the moons around Jupiter or Saturn, and I just know it's so advanced that there's like nanobots, like nano cells on a molecular level that control everything with their technology and like their health and everything. But then they were infected by this virus, so it's literally infecting everything.
It's infecting the nanomachines, or it's infecting the human cells?
It's affecting the nanomachines, which infect everything because the nanomachines are in everything.
Yeah.
And apparently there's some crazy cult religion on this moon too. Yeah, like I said, I'm only on chapter 2, so it just seemed like a great story. So I read the back of the book at Barnes & Noble, and I was like, I'm going to read this.
That's sick.
You know, so yeah, Chasm City, I think came
I like
out
sci-fi.
2000, I want to say 2007 or 2012. I know that's a huge jump, but those two numbers stick in my head for some reason. So
Nice, man. So you're a gamer, reading books, and like you said, anything to stimulate the mind, rest the body.
yeah,
This is what you enjoy
absolutely,
doing.
yeah. And then
That's so
Sundays, I rest both. I rest the brain and the body. You
And the
know,
soul.
I go to church and rest the soul.
And
yeah.
the rest of soul.
Yeah, I missed church this last Sunday though. That my ear infection, man. I woke up and I was just in so much pain. I had to go to the primary health.
Primary health.
And like, you know, I could have like toughed it out and went to church, but I was like, man, my wife and my mom were like, just go get yourself taken care of. You know?
Get it checked out.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's rad, man. It's cool to see, like, outside of fighting, just kind of see what you like to do, and it's interesting to hear that, because for anyone who follows like fighters or any kind of athlete, they never get to see the behind the scenes, and it's kind of cool to see what you're doing there. And we're gonna wrap it up here in just a couple minutes. I just wanted to ask you a few things. Let's get back to your fighting career. I kind of want to know if you have any rituals. So, for instance, let's say it's the night before a fight. What's the ritual for 24 hours? What's your 24 hours before you step in the cage? What does it look like?
A lot of resting, rehydration from the weight cut.
Okay.
Eating clean food, mainly focus on the rehydration. Just, this last fight, I just hung out with my wife all day, and she was catering to me like, oh, you need anything? Oh, yeah, I'll take some of this. I'll take some noodles. You give me another gallon of water, It's basically just resting, waiting for the fight,
Okay.
Definitely not going out doing anything. I'm staying in the house. I remember one fight, I went to the gym. I shadow boxed for a little bit. I don't even like to do that anymore. Pretty much week of the fight, all the training's done. I'm not going to athletically get any better than I just did over the last 8 to 12 weeks. So now's the time to rest. I want to be as fresh on the Friday that I fight that I am walking in Monday morning after a weekend of rest. And it's pretty much, I don't have a ritual as far as the day of. I mean, a lot of sleeping. I guess, is this considered ritual, what I'm doing?
Sure. Some people probably don't sleep, so there you go.
Yeah, a lot of sleeping, just resting, waiting to fight. Now, when it comes fight time, like I'm backstage, it's keeping your mental calm until it's time to turn up. Until it's time to turn it on. You don't want to start getting warmed up and stretched out too early. I see a lot of, like, rookies make that mistake. They just immediately get their hands wrapped, get in their fight gear, get in their gloves, and just start moving around. And I'm just like, man, like the first fight doesn't start for another 90 minutes, bro. Like, don't get hyped too soon. You got to learn how to turn that on and off.
Yeah.
I was really good this last fight. Like, I just remember I was very calm. I didn't even get my hands wrapped until like I was like 3 fights away. I was sitting there backstage. I was watching all the fights. They had a TV back there for us to watch. So I was watching my teammates win, which was, it's inspiring. You see your teammates fight before you and they win. And then when it was like 3 fights away, I was like, all right, time to wrap my hands. And I was sitting there. I still wasn't even in my fight gear. Got my hands wrapped, changed into my fight shorts, started moving around, started, doing just a little bit of pad work. Went out there and fought, man. It felt great. So...
Nice, man. Yeah. So one other thing, so in my last boxing match I had, which was, now it's been 11 years, surprisingly, this is what I always tell people. They're like, what the heck? Why is this even why did you listen to this song? So what happened was I was so nervous before the fight. It was for the Bronco belt. It was for Boise State Boxing Club. So we were fighting at Boise State. It's a pretty big fight, actually. We had like 1,000 people show up, which is big for an amateur boxing tournament. So anyways, I was really nervous, and I ended up getting rocked, which sucked. But I was listening to Michael Jackson, because usually I would listen to like my Eminem, my Lil Jon, like all the hype up music, but I was so nervous that like Michael Jackson for some reason like
calmed me
down. And it was the song off of Free Willy. Do you guys know that movie, Free Willy with the whale?
Yeah, I don't remember Michael Jackson singing on it.
He was the main song.
Like, it's the main song. It's like,
I was so young when that came out. It's probably why.
Exactly. There we go. Yeah, it was that song. Great. Do you have any songs or any music that you listen to that kind of helps you get in the zone? I don't know how.
I used to have music that helps me, but I started to realize that that's a crutch.
Okay.
Using music is a crutch. What I do now is I fully embrace my surroundings. So when I hear other fighters warming up, hitting pads, I embrace that. When I hear other coaches talking to their fighters, I embrace it. I embrace what I'm about to do. I fully embrace it. I don't try to run from it. I don't try to mentally check out. I absorb myself in that moment. Just like the sounds of everyone breathing, sounds of like hearing the people calling like, hey, calling the name of a fighter, like, you're up next, you're on deck. You're like, boom, and then that feeling it gives you, like, this is only a moment, so I'm gonna embrace this moment. I got all the time in the world to go listen to music after I'm done fighting.
Nice.
So I used to, but it never felt right when I was listening to music, and I was just like, oh, why am I listening to music right now? Like, I should totally be focused on what I'm doing. I took the earbuds out one time at a jiu-jitsu tournament. I never looked back. I was like, I don't listen to music before I fight.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So
different approach. I like it. I like it.
Everyone's different. Yeah. But
that is your soundtrack, I guess.
Yeah. Life, like
that's your soundtrack.
As hippie as this sounds, life's my soundtrack, man.
Oh, I like it a lot, man.
Cool. Yeah. I just fully embrace what you're about to do. You know, I trained for this for a long time, and I'm not gonna run from it. Like, I'm right here.
I like it.
So
for sure.
The only way to conquer fear is to face it head on. It's the only way. You'll never conquer fear by running away from it. And I feel like a lot of times we run away, not physically, but we check out mentally.
Yeah, mentally.
So even though I'm physically here doing this, I've checked out hours ago because I'm so afraid that if I'm not mentally here looking through my own eyes, I just go deep down inside my own soul, inside my own thoughts. Like, it's not really happening, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of like you're mentally running, you know? Just embrace it, man, you know?
Dope.
I could only imagine how soldiers on the battlefield would feel.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that's the difference between being successful and not. It's just like, are you there? Are you present?
Yeah.
You guys ever game, and when you're fully mentally there, you're just on point. It's like, man, I can't be touched right now. Like, I'm on point. But then when you start thinking about other stuff while you're gaming, and it's like, oh, I messed up. And then you, like, restart, and you're only kind of, like, half gaming.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you should turn it off and go do something else. You know what I mean? So it's like, just be fully engaged. So,
I like it, man. And Matt, when's your next fight? What can we look forward to?
Yeah, so I'd say May 4th. That's a definite fight that will happen. It's me defending the belt in my hometown. The only reason that will not happen is I get a call to the UFC, or I get a call to Bellator, or anything else. So, but as far as right now, we're preparing for that. My buddy Josh Wick, he's fighting this Friday for the 155 belt on the same league, and he's going to walk away with a second round knockout. I'm calling it right now.
At CenturyLink Arena.
CenturyLink Arena.
Friday night.
Yeah,
what
this
time?
Friday. Fights start at 7.
7 o'clock.
You guys should come. Both of you.
Be there. Tickets start at $20.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably.
Whatever they
You don't
are.
have to pay for them. Doesn't matter, right?
Whatever the
I'll get
tickets are,
backstage.
they're not expensive, so show up.
Yeah, and honestly, anyone who's listening to this podcast and just wants to experience it, like how I just said, fully embracing that moment, you know, go get absorbed in the live MMA fights. See what it's about.
They're really entertaining. The MMA scene here in Boise has really grown, and
Yeah.
it's cool to watch because, like I've sat everywhere in that arena to like watch different fights, and whether you're on the floor and the table's right next to the cage or you're up top, it doesn't matter. It's actually really interesting. It's fun to watch the fighters. It's fun to listen to the guys in the corner, listen to the coaches, just kind of like look at everybody's energy. The fans are getting into it. It's actually really legit. And I heard that Pro Edge is actually paying for our tickets this Friday. Right?
Oh, maybe.
That's cool,
I think
dude.
so.
All right, sweet.
My ticket got paid for by Pro Edge. Yeah. We'll get you a ticket.
Okay.
Totally.
I'll see you guys there.
We'll
man.
get you a ticket. You're
I'm just
going for
messing.
sure.
Yeah.
We'll see you then.
I don't need a ticket though.
Solid, guys. Well, Matt, I appreciate you joining us, man.
Yeah,
and
anytime,
Tim,
man.
frick, man, thanks for letting us use the studio.
Yeah, it was
and
great.
hopefully we can
Come
do it
and hang
again.
out.
Heck yeah.
So,
Totally.
and for all the listeners out there, hope you guys enjoy the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, again, listen to us on iTunes and any other aggregate that you have, whether it's Android, you're running a Windows phone, or anything else on the Apple phone or iTunes, whatever you guys call it, because I own an Android. But give us 5 stars. Again, give us some love, give us a like, and share this, because
what goes around comes around.
what goes around comes around.
Boom.
Karma. Awesome, man. Thanks again for swinging by. This is Pro Edge Podcast, and we got the Gametime Guru. It's his show.
It's sponsored by the Pro Edge
It's
Podcast
fun,
today. I like
it's
it.
his show. I love it. Awesome, man. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.